as I said earlier, if you're a fashion-conscious killer whale, I'm not sure how many of you are fashion-conscious killer whales, orcas, but what you'll be wearing now, the best-dressed whales, killer whales, have got a salmon on their heads. It's like a salmon hat. Now, this is an extraordinary story. In the 1980s, back in 1987, female orcas were spotted off the American West Coast with this craze. Big salmon on their heads, and then it just stopped. Anyway, they're doing it again. Look at that big fish. If you're watching on screen, now look at that massive great fish on their head. No one quite knows why they're doing this, but fish hats, salmon hats, seem to be back in the wonderful world of orca fashion after 40 years. Let's talk to animal expert James Robson. Hello, James.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm all right. Now, everyone seems to be completely confused as to why the orcas did this in the first place. But they were regularly seen back in the 1980s. 1987 was the big year for it, off the west coast of America, where they hang out, lots of them, with these huge dead salmons on their heads. Then it just stopped, and now it's back. Right, I'm going to give you one theory. Orcas apparently live till 90 years old. There is a suggestion, or one theory, is that the reason these are old lady or maybe male orcas as well, who are reliving their misspent youth by revisiting the fashion that they wore back in the 1980s, which sounds to be slightly fanciful, but how else can you explain this bizarre fashion?
Well, fashion goes in cycles, so it could well be that. I think there's potentially other reasons. So probably the best way to talk about it is maybe a bit more broadly talking about animal behaviours, but then also specifically orcas. So orcas, killer whales, is sort of, I suppose, the more common term. Incredibly intelligent animals. They're known for being in every ocean of the world, so they are absolutely everywhere. And the reason is they're so intelligent, they're very, very good about adapting to their local environment and adapting with each other. They have massive groups, about 40 or 50 or so in the pod, and it's large family groups, and they can have local dialects. So two different groups of orcas or two different pods of orcas could come into contact, and actually they can't communicate as well because they're speaking literally different languages in terms of whale language. Now, that kind of smarts can be put to good use, and I think there's likelihood in this scenario that this is actually an individual. So this is J27 of J pod found in Puget Sound. So it's an individual male. He's about 30. Okay. That pod in that area is an area where they've been worried about them for a while. That pod has been shrinking. They've been struggling in the local area, and it's a particularly good year. It's an abundance of salmon at the moment.
Right.
So what they think is, he could just be playing with his food, having fun, mucking about, because there's a load of surplus of food in the area. So there's a very good chance of that. The other chance is he's a bit younger, he's a bit bolder. He may be just showing off and trying to be cool and trying to show off. Those skills can be learned and adapted. Now, it's only him at the moment. The previous one you mentioned that was 30-ish years ago, it was only for about 6 weeks or so. So the fashion came and went very, very quickly. It was only a few in that group. This is an individual. It'll be really interesting to see if it lasts longer than just this one-off occasion that it's been seen. But if you're smart, you'll play around. So there's loads of examples of other animals that do the same, that play when they're bored or play when they've got a surplus of food.
And they are, as you say, they're called pods, aren't they? Collections of orcas, killer whales. And they're in every ocean. They adapt to their environment. I mean, there's a sort of thing, I mean, we're calling it fashion, but, they're intelligent creatures, as you say, could be mucking around. Maybe this guy thinks he looks good with the salmon on his head. But, we do also, James, don't we? We have to concede this is something of a mystery.
100%. And that's where science comes in. That's when research into these things, you want to study these things over long term. One-off events can be weird and it's just playing around and doing intelligence, but it keeps on happening and keeps on occurring, and especially if other killer whales in that pod start copying him and repeating that behavior, it gets super interesting. But there's loads of good examples. Obviously, I'm at Bird World at the moment, so we're all about birds, and there's plenty of really great examples of sort of smart birds. So you've got crows using tools. We've got a pair of toucans at the moment that we put together as a breeding project, boy and girl, inventive names, I know, but Boy was hand reared. He hasn't met another toucan before. He doesn't know what he's doing. And his girlfriend that's been sent over as part of the breeding program, she knows all about breeding. So he's learning from her how to get it on to make baby toucans, and that's learned skill. So being smart and being adaptive is all about the wild and about nature.
So that toucan girl is showing Boy the ways of the world. Yeah,
she's in charge.
So Boy's having a good time right now, right?
Yeah, they're having fun. It's quite fun. If you came and visit, you can see her chasing him around the enclosure, sort of saying, hey, playing some Barry White, getting the chocolates out, getting some wine out.
Get going, Boy. Have a good time. James, excellent to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. That's James Robson, animal expert there.